What do you do when you're looking for the coolest, most happening, dynamic place on the internet? You go to Twitter and you go to Elon Musk's page, I guess. Uh, this is a podcast, and I'm your host, Ken Braverman, and we're going to go deep into one of the most interesting social, economic, just story, uh, uh, news feed. Like, there's so many issues going on at once that I have to podcast about it. I love to podcast. I've been doing it for decades. I've been podcasting for a long time. I've done thousands of audios, and I like to now kind of record the screen, and I'll do one about Twitter because is there anything more happening right now than this? So the richest guy on the planet, in quotation marks, whatever. There's people that might be nominally richer. Certainly one of the most powerful people on the planet with what he's doing. I love what he's doing. I wish I was him. I mean, this guy does everything you can think of, right? So he's bought Twitter. He turned a public company into his $44 billion website. And he's getting attacked from all sides, which I guess is just part of par for the course right now. But what's driving me to check this out is I I hold Elon in the highest esteem. And so my phone, my other sources of media all over the place, every time feed, news, articles, doesn't matter what website, it's like I'm getting stories pumped in my feed that are negative about Elon, negative about Tesla, negative about Elon. And I'm like, why am I getting this? And I go, well, I do read them, or I certainly glance at them, but then I'm like, did he really say this? And then I go, no, no, no. I gotta check with the source and see like, what did Elon really say? Because I'll see an article. It's like Elon tells everybody to vote for Republicans, and I'm like, did he really do that? I'm like, it doesn't sound like it would be that straightforward. And of course, it wasn't. It wasn't. And people are picking and choosing what they say about him. And you can now go to his page and his source and get a peek into his mind. And I can think of no better topic to podcast about than what is going through Elon's mind as he takes over our feeds to try to, I believe, make our feeds better for us. And also apparently to make money. As you can see, he wants to charge everybody $8. Here's the thing about the $8. I saw a bunch of comments about, oh, you got to pay $8, got to pay $8. I'm not paying $8. I'm browsing right now for free. I've never paid a dime for this, and I believe it's still free to browse. If at some point I can't use Twitter without paying $8, then I probably won't use Twitter anymore because I'll get my tweets secondarily through other sources, right? So you don't have to pay $8. I guess if you want a blue check mark, you ought to pay $8. But I think that if Elon does this right, the blue check mark won't even matter. It won't even matter. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm gonna go through things he talks about. I'm gonna answer questions and I'll probably make more of my own. Twitter usage is at an all-time high. Um, Usage can be defined in so many different ways, and there could be some peak usage hours or peak times and number of like, a number of people on or whatever. That could be in a short term totally inaccurate statement, even though I saw an article that was trying to disprove that statement, and I was like, who's arguing with him? I hope the servers don't melt. All right, what else, Elon? Tell me. So he's putting ads all over the place too. I'm seeing. Um, okay, to be clear, here we go. Yesterday or 2 days ago. To be clear, my historical party affiliation has been independent, with an actual voting history of entirely Democrat until this year. I believe him. I don't think he's lying. And he hasn't, he may have voted already this year if he mailed his vote in. I don't know who he voted for. Now, I can tell you that uh, the whole Democrat Republican thing, it's a zero sum game when you say you're one or the other. And I've talked to people. I mean, it's so funny because I have uh, so many different people I know in different party affiliations, and we can agree on a lot of things, no matter who they are. And it's because really we're all not 100% Republican or 100% Democrat or even 100% independent, because independent is almost a party, sort of. What we are is we are the party of superposition, which means that we are on certain issues different from what the party line is on that issue. We all are. Every human being is complex. and we all have different opinions on things, and there's no way that one person agrees 100% with whatever the party manifesto is. So when we vote, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. Sometimes there's just one issue that people vote on, and they vote with that party that supports that one issue, even if they might not agree or even know about anything else. So what gets really complicated is, well, how do you make a decision, a a binary decision of one party or the other, when it's such a quantum superposition type thing? We're all one way on one issue and one way on the other. And I believe that the Democratic Party is the only party that is willing to debate anything at all. And the Republican Party is funded by foreign money that's trying to destroy this country. The majority of the Republican Party and a lot of candidates, any of the Trump MAGA faction, is all funded by foreign money. People should be in jail, and hopefully they will be. Hopefully, what happened tonight in the election, that's still being counted, but a lot of things are in, and it looks like the Democrats are holding on to stuff. And it's not going to be a Republican takeover, and a lot of the candidates that were really scary seem to have lost. Mehmet Oz looks like he's losing in Pennsylvania. These are great things, because people realize that in order for us to progress and do things, we have to have at least reasonable leadership, even if you don't agree with it. An unreasonable MAGA leadership was terrible for this country and terrible for the world. And at least we seem to have got our feeds straightened up enough that we voted that out unanimously. And I think this is the catalyst that actually moves us to file charges against Trump and lock him up, because he's now, from his, from his beach home or whatever, trying to dictate politics still under a million investigations, and stealing documents, and probably trying to sell them to foreigners and trying to extort people. God knows what. Like, all that stuff that we at least understood enough that was so bad that we wouldn't allow that to take over Congress. And hopefully that's the way it's going. And so we're all party of superposition, though. And this was just a fear of our enemies taking over, the enemy, like, the foxes in the hen house when you vote those people in. So even if you don't agree with Democrats, you kind of have no choice, because we have to have some sanity in leadership. We can't have that. But it's looking good. It's looking like we'll have democracy for another 2 years, at least. Um, he's open to so he voted Republican this year. So wait a minute? Where is he, in Texas? Oh, where is he? Where is he voting? Where does he live? I think he's in Texas. He's probably voting for like a Texas senator or something. You didn't vote for Louis Gohmert, did you? That's the dumbest guy in Congress ever. If you've seen that guy, Elon, would you have voted for Louis Gohmert if you were in his district? I'd like to know the answer to that. I don't even know if he was running. To independent-minded voters, tell me, shared power curbs the worst. Shared power curbs the worst excesses of both parties. Therefore, I recommend voting for a Republican Congress, given that the presidency is Democratic. I would agree with you about split leadership, except that when the Republicans are not acting in good faith, meaning that they're being manipulated by our enemies, and that's who's funding them, then it's not like you have reasonable leadership on both sides. You don't. You've got an enemy. Like, why would you let someone who's trying to kill you in your house if you had the ability to say it was illegal for them to enter your house? Like, so the Republican Party is not what they used to be. And I, I mean, I don't think Elon supports that, but he's a globalist. He does all kinds of things, and he works with everybody. So maybe he knows more than I do. Um, Hardcore Democrats or Republicans never vote for the other side. So independent voters are the ones who actually decide who's in charge. Okay, yeah. Well, but we're all part of the party of superposition, which I think means that essentially we are all independent voters. It's just that some of us are much harder to sway. Hmm. He's evolving rules. I think he banned Kathy Griffin for impersonating him. Funny. He is wielding the sword. Um, Twitter needs to become by far the most accurate source of information about the world. That's our mission. Okay. So you want to be the Wikipedia feed, I guess. It's gonna. My ideas for doing this. I man, I had these ideas years ago. One of the reasons why I left Facebook is because they were doing the opposite of them. But in order for things to get accurate, the rating system and reputation actually does work pretty well. And Reddit is a pretty good one too. Reddit works pretty darn well because stuff gets upvoted and read by people. And I think that you'll find, Elon, you will find that eliminating the bot problem and eliminating the multi accounting problem, which was, by the way, I tweeted Elon and I asked him a question. I go, I have two accounts because I do. I have two accounts. I don't know why. I think I tried to set one up, forgot it, and then set one up with a different email. That's what happened. And so I got two accounts, and I don't know how to get rid of one of them and only go with the other one and how to make that decision because I am one person who has two email addresses, right? Or more. So I shouldn't be two people because I have two email addresses. So how are you going to start identifying people and accounts? And do you want to? I think you should. You should want every Twitter user to be a real person, even if they're going by a handle. They should still be identified as a real person. Whether or not they're identified openly on Twitter is another question, but they should be identified in terms of like you identify with a lot of things, like almost like a copy of a driver's license. And I'm not recommending us having to send in picture ID to have a Twitter account, but you know what's a good one? It's like a phone number, because phone numbers are tied to people. And if you think about the way that a lot of your apps work today and authorizing things and sending you codes to get you into stuff, they got ways of identifying your phone. And if they properly routed a phone number text message, so your phone is basically you. And phones are everywhere and doing everything. You can't get into a sporting event without a phone. It's unbelievable. Can you imagine that 20 years ago? You weren't able to go to a sporting event if you didn't have a smartphone on you, if you didn't have a car phone or something. Think about how funny that would have been. Anyway, before I choke here, let me cough. Oh, yeah. That's not a COVID cough. It's freaking something in my throat. Anyway, so the going forward in Twitter handles engaging impersonation without clearly specifying parody will be permanently suspended. So that's when you try to buy a blue check mark with somebody else's name. Is that what he was doing? So this is his attempt at that, but it needs to be. You need to have one account, one person, because if you start allowing more than one account per human being, then you start to ask the question, well, how many accounts are you going to allow? How many email addresses are you going to allow for a human being? Could I just log in with 100 different email addresses every day and go like a bunch of stuff and have my retweeting and my likes and stuff be 100 times magnified over a normal individual, a normal one person? I don't think that's right. I think that leads to a community where it's easier to distort things because in our minds, we think of one account as one person. We don't think of, when we see something get retweeted 100,000 times in, 5 hours, we think that, wow, that was a hot topic. It actually got traction somewhere. We don't think that it was three guys in Russia that created 100,000 bots to go re-like something and that it shouldn't have any value. We assume it had some value because so many people apparently found the need to retweet or like or whatever. So one account, one person is going to be the start. And it's going to be the name of this podcast, Elon. And I'm not paying $8 yet. You're going to have to tell me why I would want to pay $8. Oh, I'm not going to be able to monetize my stuff if I don't pay the $8, I bet. That would be what I'd pay for. So, yeah, I'd have to get some money back if I'm going to be paying $8. That's the way I look at it. All right? So this is the coolest and most interesting place to be on the internet. Elon is right about that because things are changing fast. And 115 million followers. The guy who owns Twitter probably doesn't have the most amount of followers, right? Like Taylor Swift or somebody's got more, I'm sure. But he should have the most. And I think one day he probably will. If he owns it a long time. What's the long-term plan? Just have this as Elon's Wikipedia, where he monitors everybody and bans Kathy Griffin. I guess. I don't know. All right. Well, that's the podcast for the day. one tweeter, one person. That's what we're trying to go for. All right. Good luck. May all your podcasts be listenable.